Going back to 2001, I was just a kid, and one Christmas I received this game called Jak and Daxter. I had no idea what this game was about. All I saw was a furry orange creature on the front cover. I opened the case and saw this large map and was taken back by how much you would be exploring. This was back when games actually came with maps and manuals. But when I started playing Jak and Daxter, my experience with this game made me fall in love with the franchise. This was one of the franchises that I truly grew up playing, and this first game was my initial experience with that. So let's dive in and discuss Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy, a little bit further. The gameplay for Jak and Daxter is about as simple as it gets. It's just a collectathon. All you're doing is going from area to area collecting a handful of different items. These were Precursor orbs, power cells, and scout flies. All of these could be found in every nook and cranny within the areas. And when I say nook and cranny, I mean it. There are some spots where these things are located that I wonder how a first time player could ever find. A perfect example is at the beach. If you swim over to this waterfall, there's some orbs hidden behind it. Why in the world would anybody swim over behind the waterfall? I certainly didn't on my first playthrough. And it doesn't stop with the orbs. All the items have areas where they're hidden in easy to miss places. You really have to search every spot within these locations to make sure you don't miss anything. But since this game is a collectathon, I guess that makes sense. Now you might be thinking, what is the purpose of collecting all these items? Well, this is explained early on, as orbs serve as the currency for the game, while the power cells are what you need to fuel the zoomer in your quest. The scout flies were these things that were supposed to help you find the power cells, but ended up being captured by these enemies called the lurkers. More importantly, as you collect more Precursor orbs, you can trade them in with different villagers and these Precursor statues located all around the world. The power cells are by far the most important item you can get in the game, as you need them to progress, and you even have a cool animation that plays every time you get one. Obtaining all these seems boring, but it's actually really fun. This game is one of those titles that I come back and play all the time. It's just something that I chill out and vibe to, especially once you know where everything is. Getting every item is where the platforming comes in. The entire world is separated by areas based on different terrains. For example, the first section of the game consists of the village, beach, jungle, and island. Across all these areas is where the collectibles can be found. Reaching these requires you to jump and roll all over the place, getting to hard to reach ledges in order to get everything possible. The most important thing about the traversal is that it's easy. The control scheme to the movement itself is just as easy to pick up and understand. If I was able to get it as a kid, then anybody that can hold a controller can play and beat this game in its entirety. Now, because you're platforming, there's going to be plenty of times you end up falling to your death or missing jumps. That's just part of it. But the checkpoints are very forgiving when you die, starting you right from where you left off, so you don't waste too much time on the same sections. I would say the hardest part when it comes to the platforming is not overshooting how far you will roll when moving fast. There were so many times I overshot my roll and ended up jumping off a cliff, missing a platform entirely. It's really easy to do. Now this game does spice it up a little bit, as you're doing things in between purely collecting. You can complete various tasks to earn power cells instead of just finding them like you do with everything else. In the areas within the world that I already mentioned, you can do tasks from the characters which, upon completion, will reward you with a power cell. For example, there's a lady in the village who needs someone to push a bird egg off a cliff. Once you do, you get a power cell. This was a simple task, but that's how the entire structure of the game is set up. Some tasks are harder than others, but pretty much all of them are fun to do. To make things even better, doing certain tasks will unlock things that will allow you to complete other tasks on top of earning a power cell. Like in the egg example I mentioned, once the bird hatches out of the egg, you can use the bird within the gameplay during certain segments. I thought this was a good incentive to get players to try and do everything, because you're never going to know what you're going to unlock. Personally, my favorite part of the game was the eco. This eco was essentially different elements of power that would grant you various abilities that will help you complete the tasks and acquire everything in the game. They consisted of a couple different types: green, blue, yellow, and red. Green being for healing, blue for faster speed, yellow for shooting blasts, and red for super strength. Using these in different situations added another layer to the gameplay, as it made things a bit more exciting during the actual combat. Specifically looking at the yellow and red eco, using these in tandem with your punches and spin kicks made Jak an unstoppable killing machine. The lurkers didn't stand a chance. Finding the eco was easy, as it was just packed in certain areas, found in crates, or found inside eco vents, which could be unlocked by activating the switch somewhere within the map. The eco makes this gameplay memorable because it turned the gameplay up a notch and gave this game its own feel, something to separate this from other titles at the time. There's a couple boss fights that you can look forward to that requires you to use a combination of your melee abilities and platforming in order to defeat. I don't think any of these bosses are hard at all. If anything, it's easy to make mistakes because of the platforming, as you can miss time a jump or roll and end up getting hit. But for a collectible game that had boss fights, this was really impressive, because I definitely wasn't anticipating that as a kid. I was just happy to be collecting stuff. Without a doubt, the ending boss fight is the best, as it requires you to use all your abilities to take them down, and it reveals a special type of eco at the end. Just the inclusion of these fights was a nice treat. I said this a couple times now, but the enemies you fight in this game are called lurkers, and pretty much you're beating up these monsters that come in different shapes and sizes. They are a menace and are always at the center of different tasks and things that you need to complete. You might have to punch them, shoot them, fly into them, but they're always just around. They aren't memorable though, as these stupid things just stand in your way of attaining everything and every collectible in the area. But for a collectathon game, these guys serve as capable enemies to face off against. Honestly, that's really it for the gameplay. But there's one thing that I haven't addressed, and that is what is your reward for collecting everything in the game? And that answer would be a sort of secret ending that comes after you finish the game. If you beat the game and don't have everything collected, you'll have to get it, then come back, and it will play. However, if you do have everything collected by the time you beat the game, Daxter will say something cool before you give up all 101 power cells. I'd be lying if I said the cutscene itself was worth it, because it's really not, but I do think 100%ing the game is worth doing at least once to see it for yourself. In regards to the gameplay, this is what Jak and Daxter is. This is one of those games that's meant to be replayed over and over once you learn where everything is. There's even a speedrunning community for the Jak games, and this one is still being streamed by plenty of streamers to this day. I think this gameplay is so addicting and just a blast to go through. There's something about running around and collecting stuff that is so satisfying. Maybe it's the checklist, as feeling like I've completed something by 100%ing an area really never gets old. This gameplay is just timeless, honestly. In regards to the story, this is not where Jak and Daxter shines. This doesn't mean that the story isn't present, it's just bare bones. The setup is done early as you and your friend Daxter are on Misty Island messing around when Daxter falls in a pool of dark eco and gets turned into an Otzel. From here is where the journey begins as you go on a quest to return Daxter back to his human form. As you travel from area to area, you meet different characters, all giving you tasks and giving you some insight into what they've been dealing with. However, all of this is self-contained, as most of what they're talking about doesn't relate to what you're trying to accomplish. Of course, interacting with them is necessary, as helping them gives you power cells and allows you to continue your quest, but it's not like your relationship with them directly affects your overall goal. Even still, interacting with these characters is memorable because of the varying personalities. It's nice to talk to Kira and Samos, as those scenes actually push the story forward and tell you what's going on, but other than those, that's really it. I don't think the lack of a story is a knock on the game, it's just an interesting choice. By the time you roll credits, the problem that was established in the beginning will have come to a resolution, and the secret cutscene will leave things in a definitive place. I wish that there was more to this story, but most of it comes by interacting with the villagers. What's funny about this is that you can skip most of the cutscenes with them as well, so when completing the task, you don't ever have to talk to anybody. Consider this, and there's even less of a story than before. Just a funny situation overall. Overall, Jak and Daxter the Precursor Legacy is fantastic. Even though it's a collectathon, the game is just fun. Every time I play it, it takes me back to a time when gaming was better and companies took chances on creating new franchises. If you're not a fan of the repetitive gameplay loop, then I understand, but for someone like me who enjoys comfy and chill games, I think this is an instant classic, and it was a fantastic base for the Jak games to come after. For those reasons, I want to give this game a 9.5. Jak and Daxter is my second favorite franchise ever, and this game had a lot to do with that. This game holds a special place in my heart among platformers, and I come back to it all the time and replay it. Especially with the open goal version being out, this game pretty much has a PC port, so there's never been a better time to give this game a try. I highly recommend it. What did you think about Jak and Daxter and their Precursor Legacy? Did you play this as a kid, or are you hearing about this for the first time? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to watch one of my other reviews right here.
Judging by the smell, I'd wager your bathtub sank in the mud long ago.
What's a bathtub?